$100 million. That is how much a single day of Hormuz closure cost the global economy and disruption. 27 attacks, 37 days, 95% traffic reduction, one strait, infinite consequences. Today we run the numbers on 5 maritime stories and keep score on exactly who is winning, who is losing, and by how much. No diplomatic language, no hedging, just the scoreboard as it stands on April 6th and what it means for your wallet. Story 1. The Strait of Hormuz. Current score, Iran leading, everyone else trailing. Gap widening daily. 20% of global oil transits this 20-mile channel. Right now, barely 2% of that is actually moving. 17 million barrels per day removed from normal circulation since the conflict began. Each barrel has a replacement cost. That replacement cost gets passed through refineries, through distributors, through retailers, and ends at your register. Big play on the board. Pakistan may have just brokered a ceasefire, the Islamabad Accord between the U.S. and Iran. Pakistan's army chief worked through the night between Vice President Vance and Iran's foreign minister to get this done. The deal would reopen Hormuz within 15 to 20 days if it holds. The current scoreboard flips fast. But Iran has every incentive to delay. Every day the strait stays closed is another profitable day for their merchant fleet. Current field conditions, critical threat level. 27 vessel attacks since March 1st. 8 ships transiting per day. Before the conflict, over 100 ships per day without incident. Current volume is 8% of that baseline. Score on infrastructure attacks. 4 energy facilities hit across 3 countries in 72 hours last week alone. Bahrain's Bapco oil storage tank, Kuwait's Mina Al Ahmadi refinery, Abu Dhabi's Habshan gas complex, Barouj petrochemical plant. Each burning facility is points on the board for whoever wants energy prices elevated. Iran is running up the score. Transit counter 13 ships through April 2nd, down to 8 by April 4th. The trend line is not encouraging. Suez Canal moment, a Chinese bulker ran aground this week, held its breath for 4 hours, got refloated, nobody scored. Presidential play Easter Sunday ultimatum demanding Iran open the strait deadline Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern, threats included. UAE play loudest voice demanding Hormuz be guaranteed open in any peace deal, billions in cargo anchored. Zero movement. Qatar attempted play LNG tankers Al Dayan and Rasha Eid tried Hormuz this week, turned back at the entrance, no score. Iraq's play Ocean Thunderer got through after formally asking Iran for permission. 1 million barrels of Iraqi crude moving. That permission requirement is the score that tells you everything Iran is running the game, and everyone else is asking nicely. Iran's targeting plays MSC container ship, hit claimed Israeli connection via owner's wife's dual citizenship. Thin justification. Qingdao Star targeted former Zim ship sold years ago, now run by Maersk. Outdated intel, real damage, costs passed onward. Iran's hidden scoreboard merchant fleet booming, 20-plus cargo movements daily at Bandar Abbas, oil flowing to India and China. U.S. sanctions quietly lifted on Iran. 600,000 barrels exported in March on a formerly blacklisted vessel. Iran's score in Story 1 highest it has been in decades. They control the game. They profit from the chaos. They set the terms. Your score in Story 1 negative. Every dollar of elevated oil cost since March has been a direct deduction from your buying power. Story 2. The Black Sea. Current score, Ukraine winning militarily, Russia still exporting. Civilians on both sides losing. April 5th, scoreline, a Russian wheat cargo ship sank in the Sea of Azov after Ukrainian drone strikes. 1 crew member killed. 2 crew missing. 9 survivors. 1 full shipload of wheat off the global supply and global wheat prices felt it same day. Ukraine's weekend scorecard, Novorossiysk oil terminal hit. Lukoil refinery hit. Baltic port of Primorsk targeted. Then a Russian naval frigate struck in the same port during the same operation. Military and economic targets combined. Ukraine's goal reduce Russia's $500 million daily oil revenue to the point it cannot sustain the war. Score on that objective partial. Russia is hurt. Russia is still exporting. The match is not over, not even close. Russia's energy redirect play Yamal LNG needs to reach Asia, but Hormuz is closed, so the Arctic route is the only option. Arctic routes score 25 ice-capable ships, 120 to 130 voyages per year maximum capacity. That is less than half of Russia's 2024 export volume. They are shipping at a significant loss of capacity. Forced own goal. Russia's LNG destinations score mostly Europe, the continent sanctioning them and promising to cut them off by 2027. Europe's contradictions score buying Russian LNG at full volume today while funding Ukraine to destroy Russian infrastructure. Consumer score in Story 2, your grocery bill is up. Your heating bill is up. Neither side in this conflict is paying that cost. Arctic metagas update struck by unmanned surface vessels in the Mediterranean. 2 hull holes drifting off Malta unclaimed. Shadow Fleet tanker Flora 1 detained by Sweden, then released, couldn't prove oil pollution inside their jurisdiction. Shadow Fleet score still operating, still evading, still moving billions in sanctioned oil outside every pricing system. Black Sea final score, Ukraine 4, Russia 3 on the military board. Consumer costs everyone 0 against an invisible opponent. Story 3. Container shipping rates. Current score regulators 1, carrier 0. Consumer stability holding barely. The surprising stat despite everything happening in the world. Global container rates have largely not blown out. World Container Index, approximately $22.67 per 40-foot box as of this week's reading. For context, pandemic peak in 2021 hit over $10,000 per box. Current level is about 22% of that. The reason rates held a global glut of container ship capacity absorbing the Hormuz shock as a cushion right now. Rates did spike to 3,500 in June 2025 when U.S.-Iran tensions first escalated, then moderated as talks started. Current route scores: Shanghai to Los Angeles, 2663. Shanghai to New York, 3434. Shanghai to Genoa, 3529. Shanghai to Rotterdam, 2543. All above pre-conflict baselines. Each dollar above baseline is already priced into whatever you order next week invisibly, automatically, without negotiation. Carriers attempted play-filed war surcharges on top of already elevated rates. Emergency fees, crisis supplements, all rejected. FMC chair Laura DeBella blocked them cold proof with documented costs that the war raised your specific operating expenses. Upfront evidence or mandatory 30-day notice period. Carriers couldn't prove it. Surcharges didn't go through. Score FMC 1. India held the same regulatory line, 2 continents of regulators blocking the same carrier surcharge playbook simultaneously. Ocean Shipping Reform Act of 2022 is the rulebook that made this possible. Congress passed it. The FMC used it. You benefited. Rate stability risk stat. The capacity glut will not last forever. Any demand recovery removes the cushion fast. One new military escalation anywhere in these stories could push rates to 3,500 again within days, not weeks. Container story final score carriers tried to score extra points. FMC blocked the play. Rates holding but fragile. Story 4. China versus Panama. Current score, China applying pressure. Panama bleeding revenue. U.S. on the sideline watching. The Panama Canal, 5% of global seaborne trade. 3% of all U.S. imports. Not optional, not replaceable. China's play: systematically detain and fine Panama-flagged vessels in Chinese ports after Panama stripped C.K. Hutchison's terminals. C.K. Hutchison ran those terminals for 30 years. Panama took them back via court ruling. Hutchison backed out of a BlackRock deal. Panama handed operations to Maersk APM terminals. China responded with the maritime equivalent of a targeted audit campaign. China's inspection scorecard: every minor violation found on Panama-flagged ships detention. Delay, fines, repeat. Panama is a top 3 global registry. This harassment touches a massive share of all commercial vessels worldwide. Reflagging score ships already leaving Panama registry to avoid Chinese gauntlet. Panama losing registration revenue weekly. Rubio statement: China using economic tools to undermine a sovereign nation's legal ruling. Named, acknowledged, not yet countered. Counterplay available to Panama: restrict Chinese vessels from transiting the canal. Potentially massive retaliation capability. Counterplay available to U.S. ramp-up inspections of Chinese-built vessels at every American port. Enormous leverage untapped. Current score: China has moved. Panama is bleeding. Counter moves are loaded but not yet fired. Game still in early innings. Consumer impact stat: 3% of U.S. imports disrupted equals tens of billions in added annual consumer costs annually. That is the downstream score of a port lease dispute most Americans have never heard of. It still adds up on their receipts. Panama story final score: China leading on harassment points. Panama and U.S. holding stronger countercards not yet played. Story 5. The Pentagon's $65.8 billion shipbuilding budget. Score: America, betting big on the long game. $65.8 billion, largest U.S. naval shipbuilding request since 1962. Not since Kennedy has this number appeared. This budget is Washington's official scorecard response to everything happening in stories 1 through 4 simultaneously. The message: the era of cheap, safe ocean shipping is over, and rebuilding naval deterrence is the only viable answer. Line item scores starting with the easy wins. 2 submarine tenders urgently needed. Current fleet critically old. Score: necessary and long overdue. 1 hospital ship replacing Mercy and Comfort, both nearly 50 years old. Score: should have been done a decade ago. 6 fleet oilers without them, the Navy cannot sustain any operation anywhere. Score: essential, high impact, no argument. Tago sonar vessel, Arleigh Burke destroyer, 2 Virginia-class subs, 1 Columbia-class ballistic missile submarine, America-class assault ship, San Antonio transport FFX frigate. Score: standard deterrence portfolio, all defensible purchases. Strategic sea lift vessels, debatable. Sal's preferred option would use that money for commercial build-to-charter programs instead. Landing ship mediums, questionable in a world where even destroyers can't safely operate near the Persian Gulf right now. And now for the highest scoring line item in the entire $65 billion package by return on investment. 5 fireboats, not missiles, not destroyers. 5 fireboats, and they are the clearest value play in a budget full of expensive line items worth debating. Score: context. The Navy lost the USS Bonhomme Richard in 2020, a billion-dollar warship destroyed by a pierside fire. Police boats and tugboats showed up. They sprayed water from outside the hull. The ship burned for 4 days and was declared a total loss. A fireboat pumps directly into the vessel, brings crews trained for coordinated ship and shore firefighting, stops the chain early. Cost of 5 fireboats, tens of millions total. Cost of 1 Bonhomme Richard, 1 billion plus decades of capability lost. ROI score on fireboats highest in the package. It is not close. Every Navy port without one is a known preventable risk. Distribution score: smaller vessels built in regional shipyards, spreading contracts and jobs across the country. Smart play. This budget seeds shipyard capacity nationwide, not just in the handful of large yards that dominate Navy contracting normally. The critical miss score: $0 committed to replacing aging Jones Act commercial tankers, a known, growing problem. A 60-day waiver just issued because there are not enough U.S. tankers to move domestic oil between American ports. Domestic tanker shortage score: fewer U.S. tankers equals less competition for domestic freight routes equals higher fuel costs. $65 billion for warships, 0 dedicated to fixing the commercial fleet that determines your gas price. Gap noted. Budget final score: strong on deterrence, strong on distribution, weak on commercial fleet recovery. Fireboats win the day. Final scoreboard across all 5 stories as of April 6th. Eastern Time. Hormuz, Iran leading, ceasefire attempted. Deadline passed. Result unknown as you watch. This outcome changes everything. Black Sea, Ukraine winning militarily. Russia adapting economically. Grain and energy costs elevated for the foreseeable future. Container rates: FMC stopped the surcharge play. Rates stable but fragile. One escalation resets the board instantly. Panama Canal, China leading on harassment. Counter moves loaded. Outcome depends on whether Panama and U.S. decide to use them. Navy budget: $65 billion committed. Long game underway. Fireboats, the unexpected MVP. Commercial fleet left unaddressed. And the overall consumer score across all 5 stories negative. Costs elevated. Bills higher, invisible to most news coverage. China squeezing Panama, Russia selling to its sanctioners, Iran banking the chaos it engineered, U.S. responding with $65 billion. Every game being played on these 5 boards eventually ends with the same final player picking up the tab. That player is you. At the gas pump, at the grocery store, on the utility bill, at the checkout counter. Subscribe and follow along because the scoreboard resets every week and the next move is always already in motion.